I guess.
Yep.
Give the people a few minutes to join.
Well, I'm inclined to just get started with the business trivia. All right, I'm going to get started. Welcome to the Media Over QUIC virtual interim, the first one of 2026. As always, this session is being recorded. This is the IETF Notewell. If you're unfamiliar with it, it covers a number of code of conduct issues, as well as the intellectual property implications of you participating in an IETF meeting. If you're unfamiliar with any of these things, you can scan that QR code, or you can type IETF Notewell into your favorite search engine and read to your heart's content about these subjects. Using the meeting tips, you're already the Meet Echo client, so you figured out how to do that at least. If you wish to join the discussion queue, use the raise your hand button at the bottom of the screen. It's also used for, well, for shows of hands. There's an interface that's fairly self-evident when we create those. In general, you should have your audio and video off for bandwidth preservation reasons. If you're chairing, presenting, or commenting, obviously you can turn your audio and video on. If you're in general, you should leave them off. But there is some lag in the audio. So if you're going to speak, you might want to unmute yourself about a second before you're actually going to speak. And if you're in a back and forth, for the most part, feel free to just leave your audio on and your video on. With one exception, that is if you do not have a headset. The echo cancellation properties of Meet Echo are not very good, and we will end up muting you a lot. So please go find a headset if you haven't already, as I have, to avoid any sort of audio. And then if you do not have a headset, then we will end up muting you a lot, and you need to mute yourself quite aggressively when you're not speaking. We need a scribe for today. Do we have any volunteers? Thank you, Mike. Mike has volunteered. Here are the upcoming dates. Today is the 12th of January, and it is the deadline for agenda requests for Boulder. So if you've not done that already, please send an email to the chairs with any subjects you would like to talk about in Boulder, and roughly how long you think you need. We have another interim in 2 weeks. Shortly after that, we have a deadline for any agenda requests for the IETF 125 meeting, which you will have an agenda for Boulder before you have to submit that, but do start to prepare for that possibility. And then, of course, we have our in-person hybrid interim on February 9th in Boulder, Colorado. Beginning the 9th, we'll have issue discussion on the 9th and 10th, and then the 11th and 12th interop. On the 12th, we're going to shut it down about noon or 1 p.m. so people can make it to the airport. And then one last interim before IETF 125 on the 23rd of February. Does anyone have questions or comments about this? Oh, one other note that we've one other note that it's not on here. I believe on the today we're going to drop draft 16. Ian, is that Ian or Alan? Is that correct?
Yes, probably tonight or yeah.
Okay, excellent. This is today's agenda. Alan.
Sorry, Martin, I had a question relating to the prior slide.
Okay.
Just a request, can you, can the chairs set a date and potential location for the next face-to-face interim following Shenzhen? Because we're needing to make travel plans right now for that period, and it would be nice not to have to wait till after Boulder to make that decision.
Well, we customarily have done this at the previous face-to-face interim. So we would have done that. I mean, this would be among the first items we would discuss in Boulder. Is that too early, too late for you?
I guess that's acceptable, as long as we nail it in Boulder and it isn't the start of a 2-week decision period to further delay it. Like you could ask for suggestions right now, and then in Boulder confirm them, perhaps.
Yeah, but we are targeting Europe.
Yes.
That's good to hear. I support that. Thank you.
Yes, the plan is Europe, and okay. Well, so our normal rhythm is that we settle on a week in Boulder, and so that does require a comment period. We could look into trying to. I'm not sure how it's going to go to do this online, but the problem is that until we have a date, we can't really verify a venue, and until we have a venue, we can't have people confirm travel necessarily. So we could trash the agenda and try to schedule a date today. That's fine. Would any object to bashing the agenda in that way? Do we have people ready to talk about May or June?
Well, how about you just put an online poll out for some potential dates instead of, and don't try to do it today.
Okay, yeah. Can do that. Okay, all right, and with that, we'll move on. This is the agenda for today. Alan sent out a very detailed discussion. This is a very short summary. You can find it all on Data Tracker. Would anyone like to bash this agenda? Okay, hearing no problems, I'm going to hand it over to the editors.
Okay, I'm gonna bash one thing about it, which is that one of those PRs was approved by everybody and merged last week, which was 1339. So it wasn't planning to talk about it today, but I don't know. The other ones are, and then I don't know if Ian has slides for the last one, but I have slides for the other 4.
Yeah, I uploaded slides for the last one just like 2 minutes ago.
Great. Okay, I will request. Wait, did I click the right button? How do I requested slides?
Nope.
Oh, dang it.
Well, wait, no.
Oh,
yeah.
Now
it was
okay.
actually, it's hiding, so it was actually there. Now,
okay.
yes.
Again.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
You should get them.
Actually, let me, well, since we said we're going to talk about PRs, actually, I'm going to.
Can you drop out of the queue, Alan? Yes, so you're.
Okay, I'll drop out of the queue. I'm going to quickly, this is not the PR slides, but this is like looking forward, like where we are, where I want to go in 2026. It'll probably take about 5 minutes. And then I'll jump into PRs if that's okay with folks. Or if people want to talk about PRs first, I can. Sounds good. Okay. This is where we are right now. There are 113 open issues. There's a chunk of them that will be resolved by in-flight PRs that are, I said not RFC. There's some PRs up that we have not talked a lot about, and I view them as more experimental. But like this little group, I think is like close to closure. Like if we get through things today, like they will close. There's a small set of issues that are still marked needs PR, but no PR has been written. And I'll note that that represents half of our open ABR issues fall into that category. But it would be great to see PRs for those. There's a large swath of them that are purely editorial, which I think Ian and I have been sort of not rushing to close because we want to get the other things nailed first. And once things are mostly done, we'll come back and do those. So take those away. We have 6 issues in our transport repository that have been marked not transport. So we don't think we're going to do anything about them in MOQ, but we're holding them there to track other things. And what's left are 54 issues. And if we break down those 54 issues, there's a side, the biggest chunk of them are ones that we have marked parked, which are ones we think we need something else to happen before we're ready to talk about it. If you look at what else is left, there's this juicy set of 6, which I have labeled joining fetch dissent. There are things that, issues that people don't like, that arise from people not liking the current design of joining fetch. There's the other half of our ABR issues, some of which are in the parked category actually, and then one of them is switch, which does have a PR, but we have not spent a lot of time talking about it yet. There's also another cluster of extensibility issues, which we have talked about a lot in the last 3 to 4 months, and so like I'm optimistic that those are close. Also, I have track selection filter here rather than in the closed by an open PR, because I think that PR needs to split into 2 and track selection filter ought to be separate. And I got the sense we need to spend a little more time discussing it versus object filter, which I did mark that one as being closed. And then, so if you take all that out, then there's, I think, 14 other random issues, which are issues that have come in recently or just need a little bit of discussion here and there. We just haven't gotten to them yet. But I don't know, it takes our 113 down to something that I think looks more manageable. So as people are thinking about what they're going to request for Boulder, this is like my dream. I would like this joining fetch dissent thing to be completely closed. Like either we decide that we have, we made our bed and we're going to ship view 1 with joining fetch and like live with some of the rough edges or address them as best we can, or we're going to come up with some amazing new design everybody loves. But let's close that out because it's a large set of issues that we need to deal with. I'd like to see proposal. We've been talking about ABR on off and on. We talked about it in the last IETF. I'd like to see proposals, if not PRs, for all those ABR issues. Ideally before we get to Boulder, and we can resolve them in the meeting, but I don't know that we need to keep sort of spending a few minutes on it every meeting after meeting. Ian, you have something?
I will commit to writing PRs for all the ABR issues, except for the switch one, which already has an ABR.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Or actually, a few of them, actually, I might recommend we punt to an extension or something, but we'll see. I'll write something.
Okay. I think those extensibility issues are all closed. They're things that we've talked about before. Resolvable in a relatively short period of time. There are things like once we land what we have in flight, there's stuff about TLV versus TV and other random little formatting things. So I think there's one issue that's come up recently, which is about how extensions are negotiated, which is one of those 4 which may need additional discussion. But I do think that we can close these. Like if we put our focus on it, like we should be able to reach consensus and merge something. It would be great to see needs PR. Martin, did you have something you want to jump?
Yeah, just regarding the ABR issue in particular. Well, for all these things with Boulder, I think it's completely reasonable for you as editor to send an email to the list saying that we want proposals for these things and by Boulder, and if there are any issues that on these subjects, list a bunch of issues that you want to close. And if there are no proposals against them by the end of Boulder, you're just going to close them. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And as a chair, I would back you on that. But just given adequate warning. And I think if you send it out like today, that's more than adequate warning.
I mean, I am more than happy to like put hammers out there that say like, you guys have until this time to put forward a proposal, or we're going to close these issues with no action.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as the chairs are backing me on it.
yeah, well, let's have a reasonable number of issues. Let's not, do the entire 300 issues or whatever all at once. But I think if there's a class of issues that you want to close, then giving people 3 weeks to put together a proposal, and certainly request a proposal today for Boulder would be fine. And if for some reason people don't get time in Boulder, which I don't anticipate being a problem, but it's not a problem. They can send an email to list, they can write a PR. I mean, there are ways to do this, so I'll let Colin go.
Look, I somewhat understand this. What I don't want us to do, though, and we've done in the past, is please send us proposals for everything that needs to be finished in this protocol. Then we have 50 outstanding proposals, which don't really get resolved or just sit around for 6 months before we can even talk to them. I would rather see us pick some things we think we can finalize, can really get to consensus on, and focus all of our energy into those instead of spreading our energy across everything. And I'm not saying that's what was requested right there. I just want to be very careful that that's not what we do, right? Like, look, if you want to say like in Boulder, we're gonna finish everything that has involved ABR or whatever. I don't care what it is we pick, but I'd rather see us really get enough time to finish something. And saying we're just going to close some issues, and closing issues when people don't think they're really resolved doesn't help. All it does is cause your working group last call to fail. So we do need to get consensus that the issues are closed, not just we close the issue, right? So anyway, I worry. I think we should focus our energy, and maybe we have enough time and energy in Boulder to work on a whole bunch of different things. That's great, but let's focus our energy so that everybody's working on the same thing instead of having. This is what's happened to us in the past. We have 2 people working on topic A that have strong opinions about topic B, but don't spend any time on it. 2 people on topic B that have strong opinions on topic A, and suddenly we get to Boulder and we don't resolve either topic A or B. That's what I don't want to do. So,
okay, I appreciate that, everything you said, Colin, and I recognize that if I look at those first 1, 2, and 3 on my slide here, I could easily see that consuming all of Boulder and potentially not, and potentially more if things don't go smoothly. I'm very optimistic about extensibility being not a big thing that we can potentially close ahead of Boulder without additional live time. And maybe ABR is close. I don't know. The joining fetch thing has the possibility to completely explode. We already spent a full interim designing the first thing. So I'm not looking for more than that in any way. And like I said, Martin was the one who said close issues. Like, I want to make sure people get what they want here.
That sounds reasonable.
I mean, I agree.
Can I have a few more words on this slide, but that I could like go through quickly. But if we want to like drain the queue real quick, but I don't know what you want to do. Go ahead, Ian. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I was going to agree with Colin, but then also basically I end up agreeing with you. So maybe I didn't need to say anything. But I'm optimistic that we could close most, or at least get really solid PRs for all the extensibility issues. Maybe not actually land them, but like the very least get them to like the done phase and be nitpicking, and then deal with hopefully out of Boulder. Like I would say, if we don't have a plan for like the first 2. Ideally, we have mostly done PRs, but if we don't have a clear plan, then like we haven't done our job, kind of thing. And then I think after that, I'm not sure. A lot of the other issues are like pretty detail oriented and hopefully won't be huge problems. Fingers crossed. So anyway.
Okay.
That's all.
Martin?
Sorry.
Yeah, 2 things. First of all, as chair, about the ABR issue in particular, I mean, I think at that point that is an additional feature request. We have an ABR story that is essentially putting it to the application layer with different tracks and so on. And so I think, that's more of a feature request than something that's fundamentally broken in a protocol. So I think we can have a cutoff for that maybe a little more aggressively than some other problems. Secondly, as an individual with joining fetch, I think Ian's bidirectional stream request PR, which is out there, is potentially upsets the apple cart quite significantly. And if we decide to land that, then the joining fetch thing may just sort of fall out pretty quickly. There's a new path, I think, for that. That is.
I'm not sure that's true. At least my read of that current PR is that joining fetch is the same. So
yes, but that opens up new opportunities for how to solve the problem, right? Like you just put them on the same stream, etc. So that may have to wait a little bit depending on how that other PR goes. As an individual, I'd say that.
Yeah, okay. I'll be really quick. Just on the joining fetch, I think there are a lot of issues on that has been reported, but we haven't yet got time on someone explaining what the real issue is, because there are implementations where this works, and we are, at least in our implementation, it works. If there are issues, I would say, rather than trying to figure out what's the issue with the joining fetch at Boulder, why not we spend time next interim to understand what's the issue, and if something like this has to really be spent time in Boulder or not. I think going with open thing about figuring out the issue at the Boulder and solving it consumes the entire Boulder time. So if you can split, that would be helpful.
I have slides already.
Thank you.
I'm not remembering. We have one more actual interim before Boulder, or one more virtual before Boulder.
I think that's what I heard Martin saying. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, okay.
Correct.
All right. I think that to us, making sure everyone is full context in what we think the problems are before we come in and start talking about solutions is really good. So if we want to spend the next one kind of laying the groundwork there and making sure people understand what those 6 issues are that people have raised, that would probably be super helpful. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay. I will share my slides with you, Ellen, and if I haven't already, and I will get those polished so they're actually as clear as possible, because I think some of the issues are a little subtle, and I want to make the issues as clear as possible. So, but I can do that next intro.
Okay. All right. So I think this is good. I think the bullet 4 here, like I think with the 6 or 7 issues that still need PR, I think Ian said he was going to make sure that we have PRs for 3 of which the ABR ones, and then the other 4 assigned other random folks that may be assigned to you. I may send you an email saying, please, can you write a PR or reassign this before Boulder, just so that we have that going in and we can resolve it. And then, there's going to be a hodgepodge of issues, and I'm dreaming to think that no one's really looked at 15. I think people haven't looked that hard, tried to implement 16 either. So obviously more issues are going to come in too, but it would be good to spend some time getting the direction on the open issues, the other 14. But if we're somehow able to do this, then I think heading into, we address all those things going into IETF 115 or 125, and then coming out of that, we are down to the parked backlog, editorial issues, and whatever new has been turned up out of recent drafts. So that gives us another one more IETF cycle. I mean, my goal is that we're looking at, per our milestones, like after the summer IETF, we are, that issue count is very low, and we're looking at being ready to ship V1. So I know that's aggressive, but we've also been at this a long time, and I think the world is waiting. So anyway, this is kind of my thoughts. Anybody have any general thoughts on this outlook?
I have a question. Is it possible to have a goal that after IETF 125, that hopefully we can declare that like a publicly deployable draft, kind of like we did for QUIC, where like this isn't done, but like this is close enough that like, the final thing will probably look similar enough to this that like you can ship this in production and like, have another, actual RFC version, and supporting both won't be like an inordinate challenge. I don't know. I don't know if it's draft 19 or something for QUIC. Doesn't really remember. But like,
I think that's a great goal. I don't know that we know now that we're going to get there. It kind of depends on what happens with Boulder.
Okay. I mean, I would like to make that a goal, because it would be great to get to the point where you can get something close enough that is actually deployable in production and like moderately stable. Yeah.
Martin?
Yeah, I'll just have I guess as an individual, my usual refrain, like as long as the application API and the object model are stable, I think it's fine to declare, you know, the public candidate at any time. But I don't think we're there yet. Certainly, as long as the subscription filter thing is out there, that's like a big change to the application API. So there's some issues we need to prioritize in land if we're going to make that kind of declaration, in my opinion, as an individual.
Okay. Any other comments on kind of like what the plan is for 2026, at least from our perspective? Okay. I will switch to the actual issue slides. For which I need a chair to click a button. There we go. There they go. Okay, and I'm not in the queue anymore. Good. Okay, I don't know which order these are in. Oh, good. 1390's first. 1390's been out for a long time and has all of the requisite approvals. So it is what we in the authors and editors group call merge ready. We could push the button right now. I just wanted to kind of go. I did have an outstanding question that was raised that came up. So just to cover what it does. So we're taking things that are track properties and removing those to sort of track level extensions, and that makes them carried end to end from the publisher. What's left, which are now in the draft called message parameters, are explicitly scoped to a single point-to-point hop. And that had an implication for, that means you can always reject an unknown message parameter. All of them have to be negotiated in advance because they are strictly hop by hop. This resulted in a small textual change. The current draft says that all unknown parameters are ignored. Both setup parameters and message parameters are ignored. I had to split that sentence. So now I say message parameters, you reject unknown ones, and they have to be negotiated. Setup parameters continue to have the unknown setup parameters are ignored, and that is part of the way the version and extension negotiation story has been baked into MOQ for years at this point. However, some people looked at it and said, well, no, that's not what we want. We want something else. So I opened a new issue, which is 1407, so we can talk about the extensibility plan and make sure everyone is comfortable with how we're gonna do version negotiation, or if we need to redesign version negotiation. But this PR does not change anything about it. It only changes where, you know, these publishers set parameters, whether they go in the parameters section or they go in the sort of extensions section. So I wanted, and I've been sort of asking for clarity, particularly from the chairs, if we're good to merge this as written.
I want to ask Cullen, are you fine now? As you wanted to have this on the agenda?
I mean, this particular issue, like PR or whatever, I don't have any objections to or whatever is rational. But no, I mean, we need, we still have the topic about extensibility where we're trying in the setup. I don't think we should be using in the setup messages. Let's say we have a feature called, you know, super whiz bang compression that has 1,000 parameters it takes, right? I don't think that you should send the super whiz bang compression with 1,000 parameters as the way to negotiate that. I think you should have a separate thing that is like the name. I want to be able to use super whiz bang compression should be the thing you negotiate. It shouldn't be the same message, right? So is that still, that open still issue? And then on these things that are not rejected, I think that there needs to be an IANA namespace for a portion of them so you can allocate ones that are rejected. So I think it's critical that a extension be possible to be defined where you can say, if you don't support this extension, give me an error. Now I'm fine with most of our extensions would not be in that category. There'd be, if you don't understand this extension, don't worry about it. That's fine too. But I think that we need both of those semantics. So, but I think there's issues for all of that and that aren't this. So, you know, am I fine with all of our extensibility? No, but this is not a proposal to solve all our extensibility. Right?
No.
Yeah.
But on the IANA range, are you talking about message parameters or setup parameters?
Well, this PR changes that a little bit in that we're saying that let's ignore setup parameters for a second, okay? But
yeah.
we can sort that out however we want, okay? That's a totally different story. I don't even think they should be the same numbers. I think they should be the name of the feature, not the feature, right? But on this, where we split this into things that are end-to-end, those are the ones I think we need to be able to have errors on, possibly or not. And what Alan's proposing here is on the ones that are hop by hop is they all have to be understood or negotiated, right? If you get one, you can't have unknown ones, which I'm fine with. It doesn't really matter. It all amounts to the same thing on the hop by hop, but the end to end's more complicated. The hop by hop, it seems sort of arbitrarily restrictive to demand that. It seems like you could easily have features that were just tagged on as optional and you don't need to negotiate them and they may or may not be understood. And also when I said IANA registry, I don't care if it's IANA registry or whether it's like even odd or however we do it, like just that there's some way to have an extensibility model that supports both seems, important. And I mean, I think, Alan, I suspect I'm not saying anything you disagree with here, right? Am I?
No, I'm sorry. I left myself unmuted that whole time. No, I'm happy to agree. There's nothing here that's about version negotiation. I'm happy to talk more about. There is an issue that tracks version negotiation. There's an issue that tracks having the separate ranges, at least ranges where I know if I pick an extension in this range, I know I'm not going to collide with an extension that you picked. So there's issues to discuss those things. I think those are the ones that are currently tagged extensibility that we need to work through. I thought scoping parameters hop by hop and rejecting unknowns was something that people wanted, particularly because they wanted to go to TV for some things, and you need to have them all understood if they're going to TV. Right. You have to know what T does. So I thought that was sort of a prerequisite for solving the other ones. So
that's fine. I mean, I don't disagree with any of that or whatever. So I mean, I guess I still think I don't see what the whole picture is or how all these pieces fit together yet. But there wasn't I read this PR ahead of time and it was something it didn't make my head explode or anything. I was just it might run into, as we fix some of the other things, we need to come and rework little bits of this, particularly around how setup parameters work. But that's not fundamental to this PR anyway, right?
The PR doesn't actually touch setup parameters in any way. It just had a sentence that said ignore set. It used to say ignore parameters. Now it says ignore setup parameters, and that set off alarm bells for everybody. Anyway, okay. So if everyone is good, we will merge this PR today, and it'll be part of 16. And we will allocate time to talk about 1407 as needed. Probably in the next virtual is preferable for me if we have time with the joining fetch thing we just said we wanted to talk about. Okay.
That works for me. Yeah.
All right.
And hopefully we can also get PRs for the other extensibility issues that are open now that 1390 is landing, because that's what I was waiting on.
Yeah. I think it's sort of the head of a train here. Okay. Super. Mo?
Yeah, I kind of had the same question as Victor, and I guess maybe the answer is about what the design of a new what the design of a setup parameter really is. If I design a new feature, does it require a new setup parameter, or if I'm okay with it being silently ignored, then I don't have to have a setup parameter. So I guess I'm missing the design rationale of when you would design a feature that must always do its setup parameter, and therefore you know that its message parameters are always going to be there, versus you design a feature where you don't include a setup parameter and you optimistically, or you don't care if the message parameters are actually ignored or not.
So, okay, I hear what you're saying, right? The design we have now where message parameters can be ignored if you don't understand them sort of seems to work, but I got the sense people didn't want that, and they wanted these things to be explicitly scoped to a single hop. And the end-to-end things, the things that go everywhere the track goes, are track properties or extensions, or however you want to call it, right? Versus things that are related to the message. So you're saying you would prefer this PR allow you to ignore unknown message, continue to ignore unknown message parameters.
No,
Okay.
I'm not advocating for that.
Oh,
I was assuming that so if I design an extension today, that every new extension will require a setup parameter. Is that the bottom line?
yeah. I mean, or a new LPN token or some, yeah. Like you have to negotiate. If you want to send a subscribe with a special parameter in the message, then you need to send a setup parameter or hear a setup parameter from the other side that says, I know what that thing is.
Okay.
So you can do it sort of in a declarative
way.
way. This is how HTTP settings work. It's like you sell the peer like these are all the things I understand.
Okay, so we are not allowed anymore to send any message parameter that has not been explicitly negotiated with a setup parameter.
That would be an implication of 1390. Yes. Like
okay.
if you have a crazy message parameter, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then why would you allow ignoring the unknown set parameters?
The reason you ignore unknown setup parameters is, let's say you've shipped MOQ v1 and then we come up with a cool extension, but somebody's still got v1 deployed. I need my v2 that's going to send, or my v1.5, v1 plus extension would say like, hey, I'm speaking MOQ v1, but I want this extension. But the old v1 had never heard of that extension. So it'll be like, well, I don't understand that. So I'm not going to acknowledge the presence. Anyway, we're sort of diving into the weeds of the issue in 1407. I encourage everyone to go read it, think about it, put their own ideas, keep the async discussion going about how we want to do negotiation.
I mean, this is another case where nomenclature might also be a little bit confusing because we have setup parameters and message parameters, and they already have in the current draft, even before 1390, 2 separate ID spaces. Although there was a minor editorial that I fixed recently, but and they're basically separate things. Like they really have nothing to do with each other except they happen to share a name. And now that one is required to be understood and one is required not to be understood, the sharing of a name is sort of like an extra bummer. But as we've discussed, naming is hard, and goodness, we love track extension headers as a name, but I can't seem to get rid of it because everything else is worse. Anyway, more of the story is like the naming might be like adding confusion to this particular topic, because especially after this PR, setup parameters and message parameters have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
But is it the fact that the setup parameters is actually not parameters? They are names of values representing capability, but they're expressed in a TLV.
They're like quick transport params, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we can call them transport params. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mo, you're not objecting to landing this PR, though?
No, but then I don't understand Victor's comment about not.
There's a separate issue about whether we're going to move to
do.
TV or not. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay. So since we're not going to talk about ripping joining fetch up and throwing it out the window, there's a PR that's been open for a while to talk about adjusting the conditions under which you can send a joining fetch, particularly for publish and for cases where you change the forward bit from 0 back to 1. So what the original text says is when you issue the subscribe, the publisher saves the largest location at that moment, and you can later joining fetch exactly to that 1 point. But if you could imagine a case where I had 2 tracks subscribed and I paused one of them by setting forward 0, and then later I'm like, oh no, I want that track again. And so I do subscribe update and I set it back to forward 1, that might be in the middle of a group. And so what this PR does is says that when you make that transition, it moves what I call the joining location forward from where the subscribe was to when that subscribe update was received. So that you could then issue you can basically joining fetch a track multiple times after this, just by, you could issue another joining fetch and then it would join to the most recent location. And the same mechanics work for publish. In a case where you send a publish, but it had forward 0, and then publish OK is setting it to forward one and you want to join from that point, like you want to use that point to join from. So I don't know. I forget if, I think this has several people have stamped this. I'm not sure if everyone has stamped it. Do people understand what's going on here?
As an editor, if we're going to keep joining fetch as is, like, we got to have this, because the current draft is kind of like stupid. I mean, it's not stupid, but it's awkward. So if we decide to change subscribe and fetch or that interaction a little bit, then we might be able to do something different. But if we're trying to create a draft that, like, I think your statement, Alan, I believe in the past was, I'm trying to create a draft in draft 16 that like holds together holistically as a thing, even if like we change that thing in the future, because the current thing has problems. And I agree that this fixes a problem in the current draft today where it doesn't currently hold together well. Now, on Slack, I remember a number of people said, oh, when I receive a forward equals 1 after a forward equals 0 in subscribe update, I just start people at the beginning of the group anyway, because I assume that's what they want, which is fine, but that is not documented behavior. Like, I'm totally kosher with that. Like, I mean, that would be the other solution to this problem, is just like assume that they want the beginning anyway and like give them what they want, right? Like, I think that's the alternative.
I don't think that's necessarily, first of all, if that's what we wanted, we would definitely have to write it down. And secondly, that has all the same problems that led to joining fetch in the first place.
Well, okay, fine. Okay. But like,
you might be 10 minutes into a group and the next group is coming in 1 second. And then you're like, oh yeah, I subscribe update forward one is this. And all of a sudden you have an avalanche coming toward you that you never wanted. I see you have a nice long queue. So let's go. Mo?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the general mess of joining fetch, but if we go with the current joining fetch, I think this adds clarity specifically for the filters PR, because the filters PR introduces a location filter to replace what used to be called this largest object thing. I like the join location as an explicit thing, and the current draft lacks information about when you actually should stamp that join location and when you're allowed to change it, when you're not allowed to change it. It's ambiguous today, and it confused people during the review of the subscription filters. So I think it's a good direction to name this join location, be explicit about where it changes, where it can change, and then whether or not we pull that all apart because of other fetch ugliness, I don't care, but go with this 1335.
Okay, great. Victor?
I would like to say two things. First of all, if you do the things that send forward one, and you send things that were like starts with the beginning of the group, even though those objects were sent when you were at forward 0, that does not sound to be behavior consistent with the current text of the spec. So I'm not sure we should be doing that. Now,
wait, go back and say what you just said, because I did not understand it.
I'm saying that subscribe is supposed to forward objects that the relay receives or as it is, and if they're not forwarded at that moment according to filters, that means they're gone and you can only get them through fetch.
Okay, I agree, and this does not change that.
Yeah, I was noting that there were people who mentioned that they were doing something else. And I'm just saying that does not sound consistent with the behavior that is suggested by the spec. The thing I don't like about this PR is that it introduces like a complicated set of, well, not complicated, but like a detailed set of rules of where we update joining location. And my preference would be to be more explicit, either like add an update join location flag to subscribe update, or to just update it on every subscribe update. Like, because I don't know, like those rules might set, like we're saying forward 0 to 1, but what if I change the filters? How does that, I would much rather prefer to like either control it manually or just always do that.
Okay, I think the interaction with filters, this was written before filters came, so I haven't thought carefully through those edge cases. So maybe we do need to talk about what that means. I don't think updating it on every update is good, because I'm automatically, because there's some that you could screw yourself by sending a subscribe update to change, I don't know, the priority or something of a pause track, and then all of a sudden you can't join it anymore. And that seems wrong. And also sending an explicit one seems a little fraught, but I am also not, I'm sort of okay either way.
As an individual, I would like to park this for a little while. The two reasons. Number one, I think with the filter team stuff coming out, I just think it makes it much harder. Like, these are, I just think there's changing too many degrees of freedom at once if we have both those things in flight at one time, but to really reason about what we're, because the one thing we're doing in the filter team in that proposal is trying to keep sort of the delivery contract stable. And if this thing is kind of messing with joining fetch at the same time, I just think it makes it really hard to think about. The second point I would like to make is, the second thing I would like to park it for as an implementer is, again, Ian's like bidirectional request thing. I think that's like a big, I would hate to do this and then have to revisit it because, oh, now we have bidirectional streams. Now joining fetch is a thing that like follows in the bidirectional request stream or something like that. I think that's the big rock that I would not want to, I do not want to make this change twice. So like, I know it's not just Ian's PR, because Ian's PR doesn't address joining fetch. I mean, it does, but only in the sense that it's a completely separate request. But I just think there's a lot of moving pieces, but I do agree that we need this functionality in some form at some point.
Okay, can I just clarify? So if I marked it parked, you're saying filters has to land completely and Ian's PR has to land completely? I mean, before you would reopen and revisit this issue?
That's a good question. As I'm thinking about this in real time, honestly, it's the general joining fetch angst that I think that's really at the root of this. The joining fetch angst, like, okay. So, I think we need to land the filter thing first, because before we start messing with all like the degrees of freedom and what you can request. That's how I would sequence this. The second thing is, I think we need to land Ian's thing or not. And then the third thing is, I think we need to deal joining fetch angst, of which this is a part. Like, if we're going to blow up joining fetch, I don't want to implement this change.
Okay, I think I have the signal from what your opinion is, and which is that basically, like, I mean, either this is kind of ready and could land today and fits holistically in 16. Waiting for any of those other things will necessarily mean this is not landing before Boulder, which is going to have a big joining fetch discussion. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's like park till after Boulder, I can do it. Like, I just want to make sure I understand what we're doing.
Like, as an implementer, I prefer that, because I just feel like this is all going to change anyway, and I'm kind of tired of doing that.
Okay.
But I mean, if people really need to see this in the draft and like to try it on, like, we can have that discussion. But that would be my position as an implementer.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I do want to get some other things, so let's try to go through the queue. Colin.
I mean, I think we're getting lost on if we back up to the use cases for joining fetch, you realize that if you'd installed a filter that said, I don't want any even objects or whatever it is, okay, some sort of thing, like, that just means you don't want them. It's not like that probably changes mid-flow. I think that we're trying to design something that we don't have a use case for here, right? I think that if you just said the joining fetch is set at the initial subscribe and that's it, you actually meet all of the use cases that we came up with for how that whole thing exists, and it's completely simplified. Now, the joining location is set at the initial subscribe. I can also see we can make this work with, and look, anybody who wants to refresh it and move it, like if you said joining, I'm doing a joining fetch, and I've set forward to 0. that means you probably don't want any packets. Like there's no, I want to see the use case where you want a joining fetch with forward equals 0. And at the same time, you want to go fetch some of the other packets. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Let me see if I can quickly explain the use case, which is like, let's say it's the, I have 2 tracks of 2 renditions, right? So I subscribe, I have the high res one, and then I'm like, I can't handle that right now, pause, right?
Sure.
Then later I detect more bandwidth, I want it again. I say, okay, great.
Of course.
I want to change it from 0 to 1 there, and I want to rejoin that. I want to go back to the beginning of that group to get that stuff via fetch. So that's why I want to, when it moves from 0 to 1, I want to rejoin. And it's not about filters. I mean, ignore filters.
Okay. So I mean, like, again, I think your proposal here, I mean, I think you could do this either way, right? You could have just sent that as a new subscribe. You could have done it like if it was defined the other way, or you could send this way. I think all we need to do is pick one. And
I guess you could. That's true. I could unsubscribe and resubscribe to the, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, I'm totally fine with what you're proposing here is anytime you update a subscribe, and you'd probably just put it at any update at all, it resets the joining location. That's fine. But my concern with that is like, well, how does that impact the fetches that are in flight? I mean, I guess it would be when the fetch arrived, you'd looked at the joining location at that point in time would be the simple solution. Is that what you're thinking?
That's how you have to do it, right? Like joining fetch is just, you have to, it's like a relative thing. So like when you receive joining fetch, you have to go figure out what the endpoints are.
So, I mean, I think I come around to like, I actually think that when we look at our use cases, either of these could work. But I 100% agree. We have to be specific about which one it is.
Okay. Just for the other folks in the queue, if people let me know, like if people want the Martin way, which is like, just punt this for a month and then we'll see what happens, or or the other choice is like, this is pretty good, let's go now.
I mean, I don't get the Martin way thing. Like the thing that Martin seemed concerned of seemed orthogonal to this, and we need to solve this anyway. I don't see how bidirectional would change any of this or whatever. So I'm sure Martin has a view on that, but I'm not seeing it. It just seems to me that we should, like any of our other problems, we should solve this sooner rather than later.
Well,
yeah, it's just a vote for merging it as it is. I find it so hard. We have these partially implemented things, and we have like Boolean logic. If I do this and that, and then I'm going to have this, right? It's very complex. So I'd rather just merge it, and then when we do a PR, we know what we're changing. So that's that. I did want to make a point that we invented forward equals 0 and forward equals 1 before we invented filters. I see forward as filters are far more powerful. A forward is just it's a 2-state filter, everything or nothing. And I think we have a lot more flexibility in filters. So I'm going to be pushing for us to replace forward with filters. And it would be much cleaner to do that when this is merged and we know what we're getting.
Okay, thanks, Mo.
So even if we park this, I'm going to borrow this joining location wording and explicitly where it gets updated into the filters PR if we decide to park this, because I think that lack of clarity in the current spec is a problem, and it's confused many people, including the designers on the filter team. So even if we park this, I'm going to pull some of this text into the filter PR to clarify things.
I mean, I'll say that is an argument for, as long as you don't mind doing the merge, that is, or the result of the conflict resolution, that seems like an argument to merge it now, and then, because this is pretty much ready and you could pull that in more directly.
The thing I hear no consensus on is whether or not it's actually, like Victor's point about what are the actual rules? Is it every subscribe update? Is it just the forward equals 1? Are we going to later have other nuances of, so I think there's some ambiguity about when you would actually update that location, that join location, and then when does it actually get used as a variable? Only at the time of the message being processed, or during the processing of the flow for that message? So I think that's 2 little points of ambiguity that aren't as slam dunk to land it now.
I mean, the PR itself, I think, I'm gonna go read it. I think it's pretty clear. I mean, with more things coming down the pipe, like, are we going to get rid of forward altogether? Or is it part of filters? I mean, that all changes. So, yeah. Suhas.
Yeah, let me try to be quick here. So the joining fetch basically is basically we implemented so that the subscriber does not know where the current subscription endpoint is, the location is. Hence, is asking the server to make a merge between the past and the present. And the only way it can be right is when I do any kind of a subscription state change that let the data come to me, I'm synced up to the right point in the subscription. And this PR for the current filters that we have is a clarification that is needed. If not, you'll have implementations where we'll have gap where the subscriber would think they're joining at some point, but there'll be gap in between. And hence, I would support merging this PR as is. And depending upon where the joining fetch goes, we might decide to update some of these things. And when we land the filter PR, we will definitely revisit how to reword it in terms of the filters. But for now, the next step, I think we should merge it because there is a gap in the current specification that this PR addresses.
Okay, Ian?
Quick follow-up question, and I know we discussed this a while ago, and I apologize. This interacts with the new group request thing, I think probably fairly, like obviously this needs to work correctly with new group request, right? And I think at some point you reassured me it did, and now I can't remember why it works.
And I don't remember it either, but I think it's like if you send us a request update that is like changing forward and as a new, no, I guess I can go back and look at it.
Well, if you're going to change forward to 1, you probably want to slap a new group request in there too, right?
You would probably also advance your location filter to next group in that case.
Yeah, I think if you're sending a new group and also say forward equal to 0, that's basically you're saying that I want new group, but I don't want any new data. The application is I don't know why would an application would do that. Because when you're saying new group, it's basically saying that yes, I'm interested in data, but I cannot deal with the current depth because it's not in the cache. Could you please send me start a new group requesting the publisher, and by default the forward will be 1. An application does the combination where it is new group is 1 and forward is off. It's sure a new group starts the publisher, but the subscriber would not get any data.
Yeah. I'm going to call it just for everyone observing that this is basically competing against like the alternative, which is like do a track status and then figure out if you want to join at the start of the current group or the next group. And that also like has equivalent functionality basically. It just burns a round trip. So I just wanted like just for the, so like, I mean, you can clearly make this work, but like it's a latency optimization and it may be an important one. I just want to like call out that like, it's not like you can't start forward doesn't work at all without this. It's just, yeah, cleaner. Anyway, Suez, feel free to go.
I just want to clarify to that, saying that if for non-static groups, for example, you would not know when the next group starts. So I think that's where some of these things come into play. But I think for this PR, this is small enough change that and clarifies some things that we are missing.
Okay. Do the chairs have a clear direction for me here? I did hear, so I heard someone say, let's park it, but I think that may be a minority opinion. I think more people are okay with going forward. I heard concern about should it be on every request update or just on the ones that go 0-1 as an open issue. I would love to, if it's going to go, let's get this done like today. And if it's not, I'm in the punt camp.
So I mean, clearly I'm on the rough on parking this with you. I think Victor had some substantive objections that maybe we should resolve on the GitHub. I did not hear anyone else like want to quibble with the wording of the PR, but maybe I missed something.
I think I heard Cullen also say maybe it should update the joining location on every request update.
Okay.
I'm not holding merge on that. Whatever. I said we need to pick something, and I could see either working. That's all I really meant to say.
Please don't do that, because there are easy examples that explode, like updating priority, and suddenly my subscribe just moved forward, and my and my fetch is like in the past because it already got resolved, and now I have a gap. So don't do that.
Ian sold me.
But when filters replace forward equals 1, then you're back to square one on every update.
Well, let filters solve the problem when filters merge. right? Like
Filters doesn't solve the problem. Filters could potentially remove the forward, and so then your trigger to do this is gone. So
well, then what I mean is if that happens, then that PR can not fix this since it's about to, if it's the one breaking it. Like I don't need to pre-anticipate something that has not been approved to merge yet.
So has Victor not provided his approval yet?
I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say probably not. Sometimes those are a little hard to come by.
Well, I can take a look right now.
Anyway, we have 30 minutes left. I may get kicked out of this room. There's two topics that we want to cover left.
Okay.
One is
all right.
in this.
So, you asked for guidance. So I think Victor has not yet provided his approval. He seems to me like that's the only substantive objection that's floating around, minus my thing that is in the rough. And so, like once that's resolved, I don't see why you can't merge it.
Okay.
But the one final wrinkle is, besides forward equals 1, you could already have a different filter, the current filters, and move it from a group that was in the future to a group that's in the past, and now you don't know your current group anymore.
You can never go back. Largest can only increase.
Your absolute start.
You can't move the start like that.
I thought we
joining
removed
location is the end.
I thought we removed any location about must narrow. I thought all that language is gone now.
Oh, you're saying if you send a request update. Oh,
yes,
okay.
your request update, and I removed my absolute filter, but I don't know where the head is. And so I'm intending to do a joining fetch after that. So you have the same problem without forward equals 1.
Okay, I will give some thought about that. But I do want to move on to because there's two other things to talk about in only 30 minutes. I may get kicked out of this room in a second. So one of them, which is in this deck, is variance. The other one is Ian's thing. And do people have a preference if one's going to get the shaft? I think we have time to talk some about both, but Ian?
I want to resolve variance because it's been outstanding.
Okay, let's talk about variance.
Like it seems resolvable.
Okay. So the last time anybody presented about variance, this is what was in the original PR. There were 4 bits in the leading byte that could impact. Depending, you count the number of leading ones. The number of leading ones tell you the size of the variant. So you either get a 1, and the choices were a 1 byte, a 2 byte, 4 byte, 8 byte, and 9 byte. So you would look at these leading ones, it would tell you how many additional bytes you need. And if you had any ones in the last 4 bits, that was a protocol error. Now, Victor came and said, I need 6 byte encodings. I was like, okay, fine. So then this is what the PR currently shows. There's now we have 7 lengths. 6. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 lengths, and there's 3 bits you can't use. But then once we did that, I was thinking like, well, why not have all 9 possibilities? And then Victor went and found that there is actually an RFC that has minted this scheme. The only difference is it uses 0s instead of 1s, so it flips the parities there. But like otherwise, this is like already and like totally stamped, approved variant thing that we do not have to redefine, and that has a lot of appeal for me as well. And it also that RFC is a media related RFC, so there's like at least some prayer of a case where like somebody already has who would using MOQ already has an implementation. So I'm looking for guidance. Do people want like this many choices, like, and we don't have 3, 5, and 7 byte variants, and we have these 3 little unused bits, or we just like we grab this thing off the shelf and we go? Who else?
Should we depend on RFC 8794, which is the EBML RFC? At least any of our implementations do not have any EBML in our stack. So there might be some who do the Metrosca containers, they might have it. It's something that's equivalent, but in order to get that one in, having to have an EBML spec dependent on MOQ might not be the best approach either. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think anybody had that. That code thing is like, it was more like, let me put it this way. When I presented variance, I think it was in Madrid, to the full IETF, there were some people who are not active in this working group, who are very influential IETF participants, who very much thought we were psycho for trying to create our own variants. And so I think I think we may be saving ourselves some long-term pain to say we did not reinvent our own varants, especially if somebody has something that is like so close to what we are trying to do. So that's why it has appeal for me. But I am also, I guess I'm okay going forward either way. Like, it's just time to get it done. Cullen?
I don't think we should use, even if we reinvent an identical encoding to EBML, I think that we should replicate that in our spec, and that's it. Look, EBML, there's never going to be an EBML implementation that we choose that library to pull this in from. This is too optimized deep in our encoders and parsers. So that's one point. I don't think we should do that. I don't care if we flip from 0s to 1 to be aligned with them. But I don't want to do what you're proposing here. I want to reserve some values for future extensibility of these things, particularly larger things like 128-bit integers. So I don't want to burn all the code points on gratuitous stuff. I don't really see a very strong argument for, honestly, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Maybe the one that fits in the 64 bits, like what's 7 on this slide is fine, and 8, okay. But it does seem like 6 and 5 could easily just use 7, right? I mean, you're saving, like, how often do you send those in 2 bytes? And like, I don't care if we have one of those, maybe that's really critical because it really is going to save a bunch of media times for someone. But like, I really can't see the argument for having all of these. This is just a gratuitous, like, fill it up sort of thing. I think they can use the larger size and can just eat the byte. So I don't want to use all the code points. I would like to only use code points that we have strong use cases for, and leave some free for future extensibility. Is that fair? Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. I'm skeptical of ever needing 128-bit or values larger than 64-bit for any MOQ metadata field. So I don't think group IDs, track aliases, object IDs, subgroup IDs, or the certainly not the lengths of anything already can't use the sizes we have. So like, I think those ones are not actually extensible.
No, I don't think those
that is actually extensible are extensions which already have a separate way to encode very long things. So I'm a little bit on the, like, I don't know how you would ever use those extensibility points is kind of my view there.
Okay. I mean, this is obviously one of those, I would like to keep some extensibility points here for things that might come up in the future. I remain on that point of view.
Okay, that's fair. Suhas, I don't know if you're still in queue or not. And then we have Mo, Victor, Ian, and Troborn.
I think Suhas dropped out. So I'd just like to note that there is no perfect variant format. The key is the context. And unfortunately, I think we probably have different contexts in MOQ that want different things. So we're never going to end up there. We're never going to end up on a perfect variant for all the different contexts. In one case, we want to preserve a lot of small code points for wire efficiency. And in other cases, we want to be able to encode giant things, 64-bit true identifiers. And those are two very different contexts. And trying to make one format optimized for both is always a losing battle. You'll see different formats for those different contexts. So don't count out having two different encodings for two different contexts if that's really what you want. I do believe that I agree with Colin. Don't reference EBML. Replicate it if you have to. Don't use it as the best guide, because if you followed the Stellar Working Group's work on EBML, you wouldn't probably want to adopt any part of EBML. Better just to go to the original Matryoshka implementation and run with that. So I agree with the general principle of bringing the leading ones, because that's the dominant design in almost all variant encodings. But I don't agree with having the odd sizes. I don't think if you're already in a big number, wire efficiency is not that important. It's the smaller numbers where the wire efficiency matters. So that's what I would bias towards.
Okay, thanks, Victor.
I am sympathetic to that. If we choose to use the things that accidentally happens to be BML compatible, we don't really need to cite it. it would be convenient for me for various reasons. But I don't think we should leave any bits for extensibility, because if at some point we would have to use any variants that are like 128-bit variants, we would have to define new semantics. And realistically, if you're going to put them into extension fields, you can already just use a string to encode the number of any size you want, because you already have the length. I'm relatively neutral, but I'm between those two. But actually, I'm more inclined towards the 9 options, because it is even easier to implement in some sense, because you just like know the exact number of additional bytes, etc. And the math is really easy to do, and it has nice properties where if you very nice and smooth distribution over possible value ranges.
Okay, thanks, Ian.
I don't think that the variant format we have right now needs to be extensible itself for the reasons kind of cited before. But like, yeah, I mean, if you try to just change the variants but everything else is the same, then you're going to inevitably hit incompatibilities like so many places in the code. It's going to be pretty painful. So that being said, you could completely like negotiate an extension that is like, this extension just means all my variants are now 128-bit variants, and here's the 128-bit variant format, go. Like, I mean, that is an extension we could add. Like, but I'm actually a little bit like, one of my biggest advocates for this 9 total options, besides the fact that it's like kind of aesthetically pleasing, and there's literally a hardware instruction to count zeros in CPUs and has been for many years, is that I don't think the variant format is extensible. Like, I think that's like not an area of extensibility. And I think if you want a different variant format, like you define a different variant format and either use it in your extension, or like, as I said before, define an extension that is like, now all my variants are magically on 28-bit, regardless of which ones they are, something like that. So I think the illusion of extensibility is sort of like more problematic than it's actually actively harmful, basically. So.
Okay, thanks. Torbjorn?
Yeah, I think that if we have some open slots, I'd rather like to have some signed-ins there as well, because sometimes in media you have these relative numbers which are actually negative. So why should we always have positive numbers or non-negative numbers? So, well.
Okay, I really don't want to go to negative numbers, and we've made it so far without that many gross things about it. So anyway, we can avoid it. I would like to. Colin?
Just offer some middle ground on here. I don't know if this is a proposal or not, but I mean, my point is, I think we should leave some of the code points unassigned. We could assign the code points in the way that's proposed on the slide that you have up right now, in the sense that you can use the 0 count function to count them, but not assign, say, 5 and 6, right? That would allow, like, and to make those like, I mean, I totally agree with Ian. Like, those would need to be a protocol error in this thing. This would be like, if those ever got assigned to something else, we would have to have that'd be a whole new version of the protocol, right? Like, that's a pretty significant change in parsing. I'm not saying this could be added as a trivial extension, right? I'm just sort of saying I just always hesitant of people, the 640K will be enough for everyone. We'll never need to extend this. Just always alarms me. So that's I think what I would propose on that is, in this version, is protocol error with some of the code points, and that's what's in the PR today, right? Except it doesn't count quite the same way. But if you want to use the bit count instruction, where you land these in the table doesn't matter. If there's an efficiency reason to line them up because you can use this instruction to speed up your parser, great, go for it. Right, that's all I'm saying.
But I think, wouldn't what you just suggested, let's say we leave the 5 ones unassigned in the current version, and then in some future version we define, now it's not a protocol error, now it means 257.
It means, let's say, it means a negative 3-byte integer. or a
Yeah, or
negative 2.
whatever.
Yeah,
we
well,
reassign it.
you will have to recognize from the protocol count option that you can't quite do it in the same way. No question.
So, but I think that exists even if that option exists even if we assign a value for 5 in the current protocol, right? Because it means like, okay, I've got an integer and it just happens to fit in this one range.
Because you're going to have to be backwards compatible. You can't remove that 5. You can never get it back.
So this is, I think, where it's like, you're envisioning a world where somebody is passing through MOQ bits that were encoded with protocol version 1, but they're being decoded by protocol version 2 without negotiation?
No, not that. I'm envisioning a world where when you have a version 2 that perhaps has negative numbers, right? And that everywhere that you're using stuff that only uses positive numbers, you don't have to change your code when you rewrite your code from version 1 to version 2, right? Now, the few places that accepted possibly negative numbers, then like there, you'd have to know what, you'd have to look more closely. So I'm not overly rotated on any of this. Okay. Don't get me wrong. It's just like this burning up all of our code points and not having extensibility. This is the first time I've seen this proposal, and we've been discussing this for 2 years, roughly speaking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This one had been parked for a while, and then, like I said, I was like, Victor, you going to stamp it? And then Victor said he wanted 6 bytes, so we changed it, and then it was like that opened up this whole idea, like, why could we use all of that?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was supportive. Like Victor said, hey, I've got a real use for timestamps, and like I need 6 bytes. Like I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's add 6 bytes. Like I'm not objecting to that or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I think my proposal is like, I like what you said, Colin, which is like, we use this encoding, but we wipe out 1 or maybe 2 of the rows, and we just say like, these are not defined. Don't use them in MOQ TV1. And
or we say they're a protocol error and they're reserved.
That's what I mean. Protocol error to have. Yeah. I mean, does that meet? Is everyone okay? Or Ian, you said that was actively harmful.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I think it's fine. It's not. Yeah, I'm not going to die on that hill either. I think
me either. Otherwise,
I think we should be cautious though, like of thinking it's extensible, but like, can we use 7? Can we nuke 7? Because I think it seems like we need 8, and like,
yes, we need 8. Really 7. 7. It would be either. It would probably be 5 or 7 would be the one that I would say.
I would kill 7. I think I've actually hit cases where 5 is useful.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You have 2 that you have a lot of 2 to the 40 numbers you send around.
There's like file sizes that are bigger. It's like anyway. 5 is occasionally.
Torborn and Cullen, you're still in the queue. Mo?
I think rather than looking at the encoding, you should start with, like I said, the context is the key. What are the dominant ranges of numbers that people want to encode often? That's really the important thing. And if you look at a design like Bitcoin, they realize that the size of the thing doesn't matter as much as the size of the actual value that you want. You want 16, 32, and 64-bit values. Okay, that means you're going to have 3, 5, and 7 and 9-byte encodings. So forget the encoding for now. Figure out what the actual values are. That's your context. That's what matters the most. And then you figure out from that what's the best encoding for those. And don't dismiss the Bitcoin way, because it actually lets you, in the first byte, go up to 250 or 251 or something like that. So
okay. All right. So we've got a few more people in queue. I really did want to get Ian a chance to present something. So can we like close quickly?
Yeah, I think the people a lot of sort of aesthetic preferences for how to do this. I don't think it matters very much, and I think everyone recognizes it doesn't matter a ton. So I personally would be satisfied for the editors do the best they can to figure out where sort of the consensus of interest lies and just do that. And I can certainly live with whatever we come up with.
I'll just say that let's add 6 to your original proposal and then leave rest unassigned protocol error. And because we definitely have identified the use cases for those, and let's add those things to start with.
Okay, so switch to this style, but wipe out the 3 code points that are not defined here.
Right.
Okay. I can do that. Ian?
Oh no, I definitely want 3.
Sorry. Okay, we can leave 3 and wipe out 5 and 7.
I mean, I would rather just wipe out 7 because I think it's useless. Or like to
5
speak to this point.
Yeah. But 5 and 7 looks like
Yeah. Sorry.
5 and 7
Okay.
at the least equal, by far.
I think I hear consensus for this style, wiping out at least one row and not more than 2 rows. So I think we're going to come down somewhere in between. And if we change one of, if that is easy to change 3 months from now, if we decide we change our mind, like, because the
At
general
least one
format
row makes me happier. Having at least
Okay.
one row wiped out.
I think I can live with that. I think everyone can live with that. So I think we probably land either 1 or 2 rows wiped out and move forward. Welcome to the new variant universe. Hum now. Ian, your turn.
Awesome. Is it easier if I present or do? Oh, I can request slides. Did that work? Requesting slides? No. Oh, it did. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. I have like 8 minutes, I guess. Okay. Thank you. We're not going to talk about flow control. So next. Okay. So there's a PR that's been out for a little while that moves the remaining requests to a bidirectional stream each for basically each of them gets their own control stream instead of having the unified single control stream. So subscribe namespace is already on a BiDi, already has a BiDi control stream. That was 1344. That one was particularly pressing because of the whole namespace and like you could get a large number of namespace messages. So this moves subscribe, publish, track status, and fetch onto their own control stream. It removes request ID, max request IDs, etc., and instead uses quick bidirectional stream limits. And now the request updates are a little bit simplified. They're just issued on the request stream itself, and they don't head of line block kind of one another or other kind of control operations. They are only kind of head of line blocked on themselves. And they also don't consume request IDs. So for the most part, this mitigates kind of potential DDoS issues anyway. Some questions about like whether we still might want additional rate limits on the rate of request update, but like it certainly provides some protection. It also removes 192 lines of text and 6 control messages and closes 6 issues. All right. These are the issues it closes. These are just the titles. A number of them are kind of related to request IDs don't exist anymore, so all those kind of just go away. A notable one that I filed that I think is important personally, which is today canceling a subscription gets headline blocked behind like every other control message that has been queued. And so the peer needs to process every single control message before it can process your cancellation, which is kind of sad. Like if someone suddenly, if you're just like a pass-through proxy and relay and, you know, the peer downstream like cancels their subscription and that's the only reason you have it, it's really nice to be able to like nuke that like very quickly. Or even for an end user client who's streaming video, if they go to a new video, like it's really nice that to be able to like cancel that subscription as fast as possible. And, you know, quick layer control messages are the fastest way to cancel a subscription by far. Yeah, announce cancel is no longer a problem because it doesn't exist anymore. Problem solved. And it also could fix the what happens if the fetch header is lost issue. If we move fetch objects to the response stream, the PR as it exists today only moves control messages to these like BiDi stream per request. It does not move where objects are being sent at all today, but we could put fetch objects on the response stream. I have one more slide. There are 2 downsides that have been identified. One is that the existing off token alias system, MOQ would need changes because it couldn't rely on the head of line blocking in the control stream. In Toronto, we almost moved to a different draft anyway. This probably would be further motivation to do that. I think I said, why don't we keep it in until, Alan said we should remove it, and I said we should keep it in until it becomes any problem whatsoever. I guess this is now any problem whatsoever. So now I would support moving it. The only other negative I've discovered is it does require, obviously, coding work. That's it. That was 4 minutes. That was a lot. Please ask questions.
I just wanted to say that I'm not sure it solves the 1168, the short versus long. It does not, it's no longer a request ID problem. It's a stream ID problem. But I can consume all of my bidirectional streams using subscriptions, and then I can no longer send. I can still send request updates, so that's good. But I can't send a track status. So that is like a problem, potential problem. But that's all I wanted to say.
I mean, if I have 100 hanging gets, I can't send like a Gen 204 either. But yeah, I don't know.
Ian, just a comment on the fact that this might blow up auth tokens. I really don't want auth tokens moved to a separate draft because I see them being an integral part of security and performance on MOQ, and we wouldn't want on MOQ-T. We wouldn't want some implementations that don't support them. So would there be a way with the tokens that we could reference these connections so we don't necessarily, because they might arrive out of sequence, but we could still reference them, right? And then the relay would have to wait because the one might arrive, but it could wait for a certain amount of time, and after that it can discard it. So I think there are designs we could do where we wouldn't necessarily push it to an external draft, but we could keep it in the spec.
Yes, I don't think actually changing it to make it work would be a huge change. I'm just saying, like, it would require a change of some sort.
Yeah, okay, I support that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what the change would actually be, right now, as soon as you encode an auth alias and send it in the control stream, you're allowed to use its alias and immediately pipelined right behind that. I think the simplest change to it would be once you send a request that encodes, like assigns an alias to an auth token, you can't use the alias in a pipeline. You have to wait until you get the request okay or request error to know that the other side has processed your message and inserted it in the compression dictionary, and then you can use it again. So that would be the simplest fix. It would be kind of maybe sad. We'd lose the ability to pipeline compression, which like QPAC has all manner of sophistication to solve, but like not introducing that here.
Yeah. But I mean, and obviously you could reference anything that was in setup anywhere because setup has to be processed first. So yeah, so it's not an overly complex fix actually. All right. Sorry, I can't see. Okay, I can't see the queue. Are there any more questions, comments?
I would love to get, like, this is a fairly big, it's a big and not big change at the same time. So I'd love for people to weigh in, and particularly implementers who are like, yeah, let's go, or no, please don't do this. It's going to make my life a nightmare. Let's just ship with what we have. Like, it would be good to hear from more voices.
Yeah, in general, I like this proposal, but one concern, as Alan was mentioning, is that right now we are trying to solve a problem of there is a head of line blocking within one control stream. Now we have multiple control streams of the same priority, probably because we want the control streams to get the highest chances of getting through. Now we are doing round robin across those many control streams per subscription. I'm just trying to see, in one way or the other way, we are still having some kind of a slowdown problem, either within a stream or across multiple streams with the same priority. I'm not sure how to quantify it or not, but that's the intuitive feeling. Do you agree or disagree? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think that's, I think actually I think sending on the control stream has never been an overly large concern of mine. It's more that some of the, I mean, especially with subscribe update, like you could have quite a number of control messages queued, and like, you know, what you think is a very important control message is stuck behind all the stuff that like you might think is like much less important. I mean, cancellation is like really like the one that I think is probably the most pressing, where like when you want something canceled, you really want that to happen as soon as humanly possible. But I think there could be cases, yes, where especially a relay where you have like a downstream maybe that's like issuing like a lot of, is chatty for whatever reasons, subscribe update or whatever, or sorry, request update or any other reason, like it could maybe swamp some upstream control stream. And so, yeah, I think we might need more consideration. Right now, it just says the control stream is always higher than the data streams, but maybe that strict statement is not quite accurate. I agree. But
Okay.
at least this gives us the option of kind of making that decision explicitly, opposed to just being stuck with what we have.
All right, we're out of time. Please read and review 1389. Remember that today is the deadline for agenda request for Boulder. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.